Okay, so today I'm going to demonstrate doing lever knitting, also called Irish cottage knitting or pit knitting or production knitting on circular needles. Okay, first thing you do, and I've got a piece already set up on my circulars. This is a 16-inch circular, just because it's what I already had my project on. Alright, so the first thing we do is we tension the yarn. For this, how I do it, the easiest way, is I have my yarn laying there. You notice I picked my project up so the yarn's there. Take my right hand, put the back of it on top of the yarn, making sure that the yarn comes forward between my index finger and my middle finger. I'm going to wrap it around my middle finger like that, and then the nail of the ring finger goes right on top. Okay, so that's how it looks from the palm side. Flip it over, that's how it looks from the back side. And typically you're going to have your hand pretty much like this, sideways. Alright, next thing is we're using circular needles. For a straight needle, that right hand needle goes up underneath of your arm, and you keep your hand like this, and you have kind of like a sewing machine motion here. Alright, with circulars you don't have that. It's not long enough to go under your arm. So, retension here, I lost some of my tension. And you see how easy that is. I lost it. I just wrap it around and go. Alright, so for circular knitting, your thumb goes actually underneath of the needle. And so, you see the fabric is draped over top of my thumb. Excuse me there, I bumped my camera. Turn that back just a bit. Alright, and so I'm actually kind of gripping. Gripping is the wrong word, but lightly holding, I guess would be better. The right hand needle is between my thumb, which is underneath, and my index finger. Alright, and then your left hand needle, of course, is the one that does the work. Alright, see here, I just grabbed my thumb out from underneath of it. And my left hand needle stitches are kind of spread a bit far apart. So I'm going to take the left hand needle, tip of it, going to go between my index finger and my thumb, just to hold the tip so it doesn't slide. I'm going to scooch all these stitches to the end. Okay, if you're watching the videos by the Yarn Harlot, she'll refer to power loading the tip of the left needle, and that's all we're doing here. Okay, so now that those are scooched, I'm going to make sure I'm going to take my index finger and put it right on top of that end stitch so it doesn't go flying off the needles. You do this enough, you will lose stitches. They like to jump off. So just be careful, and if you drop a stitch, stop, pick it right back up. Alright, so then we're going to purl. This is the back side of my work. This is a stockinette stitch sweater. So I'm going to finish my purl row here real quick. So just like in doing it with the straight needles, you're using your left needle to put the stitches onto the right, the working needle, and you go. So we're going to finish purling across my row, and it's the same motion as before. The only difference is we now have our thumb underneath the right hand needle and underneath the fabric. You see how pretty much that right hand needle stays pretty still. Now it's going to move a bit simply because it's not anchored under your arm like it is with the straight needle, but the left hand needle is still the one doing all the work. Alright, now notice again we're here. My stitches are all spread out on the needle, and they're really long way from the tin. So I'm going to scooch them back up, and the way I do this without taking my thumb out from underneath is, you can still see my thumb there. See it wiggling? Underneath that fabric, I just, pinch the tip between my thumb and my index finger and scooch them up. Alright, and then you keep going. And I'm going to see if I can kind of quickly go to the end. Do not be discouraged when you're purling if for the first little while your stitches try to jump off the needle. I had the hardest time when I first started knitting this way, that anytime I tried to purl, both my old stitch and my new stitch would just jump off the needles when I tried to make them. So don't be discouraged, you'll find your form. Okay, so there's the last stitch of my needle. Okay, now I kind of tend to scooch out my stitches, spread them out a little bit, and I'm just slightly gripping that between my thumb, which is still underneath, and my index finger. They're spreading them out. Okay, now to switch, you notice I've got the left hand needles held in my left hand underneath my two little fingers there. And I got the tip of this one in this hand. Okay, now I just kind of switch it over. Okay, see how I'm flipping, and I hand this needle, oops, as I go dropping it. Alright, well, we'll start from scratch. Okay, so we flip it over basically. And by doing this, by always having hold of this tip, I don't lose my tension. You know, it's like, and again, I got that tip of that left needle between my index finger and my thumb. That way the stitches aren't sliding off, they're not going anywhere. And if you do drop, the circular, which on a 16-inch shark is really easy to do. Just pick it right back up and then hand it to yourself. Again, I'm going to power load this left-hand needle, excuse me. Alright. Now, I did lose a bit of tension there, so I'm going to drop it and retension it. Alright, and then for this particular pattern, this is the NASTS, not a Star Trek sweater. You can find the pattern on Ravelry. It is a pattern on the front side. You knit 2, and then you do a slip, slip, nip. Slip, slip, knit. Good grief, I can't talk today. Alright, so slip 1, slip 2, and then you knit into the back. Alright, and then for the rest of this sweater is you knit all the way across the rest of the row. Alright, but I do want to show you one last thing before I end this video. You notice how when we're starting out the beginning of the row on the circular needles, the needle just sits between my thumb and my index finger, just right there in the crook. Okay? There will be a point, as you just saw on the Purl side, where you have to switch it over, and I want to show you that. Switch it over to having your thumb underneath. So let's knit a few stitches here. Alright, and I don't know if you can see here, as I'm going, of course I move the yarn on the tip, the stitch on the tip of the needle, it goes down as I'm pulling the left needle out. But also, as I'm going, I'm scooching the stitches down with my index finger. It's hard to see when I'm, so I'm scooching it down the needle with my index finger. It's hard to see when I'm going full speed. Okay, so now I've got to the point on these where I've filled the crook of my thumb with stitches. I could go a little further if I wanted, if I really wanted to scrunch them together, but I'm not going to. So at this point, when you fill them all up, I hold the tip of my needle, my right needle, between my left index finger and thumb. That way it's supported, it's not falling. And you just flip your thumb underneath. Okay? And so now you're holding the right needle between your thumb and your index finger, just like you were on the Purl side. And then you just keep going. And again, as we showed you on the Purl side, when your stitches get all spread out, grab between your thumb and your index finger, and you can scooch them right on up. Now, at first, it will feel really weird having that fabric over your thumb, where you're not used to having that in any other type of knitting. After a while, you will get used to it. And you can go pretty quickly. Now, I am not a fast knitter by any means. And if you've seen any videos about the yarn harlot, you'll know that's true. That was a strange sound. My phone just went off. Alright. I'm almost to the end here, and I want to show you how I do the knit 2 together on the circulars. And your mileage may vary, but I find that my knit rows go a lot faster than my purl rows, which has not always been my history. I know when I first started knitting, I knit continental, and my purl rows went a lot faster than my knit rows. Okay, for this pattern, when you have 4 stitches left, you're going to knit 2 together, which is accomplished very easily. You just take, instead of putting 1 stitch on your right hand needle, like we normally been doing, you put 2 stitches on the right hand needle, wrap it over, and then just put them off, and there's decrease done. And then you knit the last 2 stitches. Alright. And again, one more turn. Just flip it around and hand that needle to myself. And then I'm all set up to purl. Alright, and that's it. I hope this video has been helpful.